Well, here we are back doing this again. I don't even know what we're doing, but we're here again.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, I'm glad we met, first of all.
Me as well.
And I was like, dude, like, let's just like kind of like vibe. Like, I personally don't even know what we're going to do yet. Like, there's so many different like things that we can like write about and stuff, but I don't know.
Well,
It's
we're
just-
gonna figure that out.
Yeah, we're going to like, dig a little deep for it and see what comes
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Okay, well, welcome back to Cracking the Copyright. Today we have
Josh Sadowski.
Josh. Josh and I have met twice, technically.
Yes. Yeah.
One
Today's
time,
the third
though.
time.
Yeah,
Yes. Actually, yeah.
It's good to
There's
meet
a
you
charm.
again.
Yeah.
And we wanted to set this up. So we kept running into each other at different like creator events and things. Yeah. And so we're finally here to do the thing.
Yeah.
And let's get it going. Okay.
All right, so we're here to write today. What's your vibe? What's going on? What's going on in your life?
Yeah, what's going on in my life? It's honestly been like a whole bunch of different stuff lately. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like I've been pretty happy in the sense of like life is just like going well in regards to like my relationships. I feel like my friendships are doing pretty well. I definitely had like a very actually intense conversation last night though, which really inspired some like, emotions and some ideas as to something like I maybe want to write about. Maybe it's not even today, in the future, but I just like went through like my entire year last year. Like I took a year off, right? So like I was in management for a bit. Like I started on social media, but like I've always been like in music in the sense of like with my mom and stuff.
Yeah.
But I spent so much time like building up relationships and friendships and like going the extra mile and just trying to be a good friend. And unfortunately, people took advantage of that. And I think I was so blinded to how those people have like manipulated their way to use me, but also get to a place where they're also still in my life.
Sure.
Because of like all the different friends, and different like environments. And I've like come to accept like I'm obviously totally fine with that and can be civil and like I'm very forgiving and like, like I still love them. But I've definitely been in a place where I'm like, okay, I definitely need to separate myself more and like kind of decide who's adding to my energy, like who isn't just, using me or, also it was one of those situations, a very specific person where it was like, they took advantage of the fact that they know I was like emotionally and physically attracted. And,
To them?
Yes. And then kind of like went with that and was like, okay, like what is like Josh gonna like do for me here and this? And like,
Sure. Yeah.
I feel like that happens to so many people.
Stereotypical Los Angeles.
It's so stereotypical. And I'm also like one of those people where I'm like, like preconceived notion of like LA, like everybody's so toxic. Everything's like, I'm so like against that in the sense of like, it's about who you surround yourself with realistically and like the energy you're putting out. Because
Absolutely.
You're going to find toxicity anywhere. Like my best friend, like that I grew up with, like she started me on Musical.ly and she literally deleted my profile twice because we had access to each other's accounts. And I was blowing up at the time. I was getting featured like every single day. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like I'm like starting to grow. And she would like call me and be like, oh my God, you got featured today. And then like she stopped calling. And then I was like, that's weird. And then one day my account was gone. So I was like,
Oh.
and like, it's not even just that situation. And we were also like 15, 16. So, and I was like, I felt we were both like pretty mature. So to do something like that. And then when we reconnected, when we were 19, she admitted to doing the second one too. And she had lied about it for years. She like pretended like she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I got hacked, like whatever. And then I was like, I have this like feeling. I was like, I'm not gonna be mad at you. And then she like told me that she did it and didn't apologize. And I like waited. I like waited for a second. I was like, is she gonna be like, I'm so sorry, this and that? Nothing. And
fuck
it just,
that person. Sorry, but fuck that.
No, literally fuck them. And they, still try to like have tried to like come back into my life, like, fully like love, support what she does. She just doesn't sit at my table type of vibes. What's that Tupac saying? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's you will always, you may not have me as a friend, but you'll never have me as an enemy. or something like that. I'll support you, just won't sit at my table. But it's just like something I've like learned of like I can still respect and not be bitter about things like that.
Yeah. It's
And
a lot
like,
of weight to carry.
Did you have to start from scratch twice though, and that shit got deleted?
Yeah. And it took them 3 months to recover the account both times. And the second I was like scared, I was like, I want to post a video and it's like not gonna blow up. And then it did.
So they did recover the account?
Yes, they did recover
And
the
this
account.
is before it
She
became
went through it-
TikTok. This was Musically.
Yes. Yeah. And she like went through and blocked every single person to remove all the followers. And
That's a that's a commitment.
commit like honestly, like
That's
props
some
to her.
petty
Like that's a
shit.
lot of work. Like if you can go through all that trouble, like good for you, whatever. I guess I deserve it. Like also like why does she have my password, right? I guess I trusted her too easily. I trust a lot of people too easily, but whatever.
Yeah.
Well, that's something to write about. Just to interject there, trusting
Yeah.
people too easily is something we could touch on in a song.
I agree. I think I also like I've written a lot about mental health in the past too. Like a lot of my project right now is I have very complex, like not to like, you know, like word vomit or like talk about everything, but like, you know, I grew up in I was homeschooled. And
Well, I
then,
think we
like-
should do that. Let's give a little background.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
because, you know, if people don't know who you are.
Yeah, I don't know who you are.
And like
Yeah.
just to give us a quick baseline.
And I want
Other than you've got a nice fashion sense.
Right.
Thank you. Thrifted.
And how we
thrifted.
ended up in this room together.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that first really quick.
Sure.
Alright. Or what do you want to do?
No, you can give your background.
Okay, I'll get a little bit of background. Entire life homeschooled. So like that in itself, like I know my parents were also both in ministry, so like I was in church like every single day, and you know we were like always on the road. It was a very like chaotic lifestyle. My mom was an opera singer from Mexico, and she's from Mérida, Yucatan, Mexico, and so she came as a missionary to the U.S. with my two older half brothers, and like moved here, and then like the ministry like got sued, and she like it was this whole thing, right? And so she like really fought like for her kids, and like was just amazing. And so she like raised me, like she was a stay-at-home mom. And so my dad was like always working, we were always on the road. And so I've had like a very interesting experience in the sense, and it's actually interesting like to say it here because I've said it in one interview and I just had like an article that came out last week, but like being able to like confidently say now that like I'm part of the LGBTQ community is like insane because I couldn't do that for my entire life. And I just came out to them like 2 months ago. And that in itself,
How did that go?
holy shit. It was a lot better than I expected. I had been having nightmares, which is also something I've been thinking about lately too, of like, I feel like I've healed a lot in that. I've written a couple songs about, you know, about that whole situation. But I was like literally tormented day in and day out in the sense of like it was such a burden to where psychologically I was like, you know, coping with different things, like, you know, like nothing like crazy, but in the sense of like I just felt depressed, like I
Yeah.
couldn't get out of bed, and music was the only thing that like I kind of felt excited to do, but everything, and like I tried to have like a perfect life, you know, is what I showed to the world, whatever, but I was going through a lot.
Yeah.
And so it came to a place where I saw the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. Have you seen that?
No,
Everybody
but
keeps
our
saying to see
co-writer,
it.
frequent co-writer, close friend Sophia.
Okay.
Sophia Quinn. Do you know Sophia by chance?
I said this
Oh,
earlier.
yeah.
I'm so bad with names. No, like it's actually so bad. So if I had a photo, I'd probably be able to like.
Okay. Well, the last few times we've seen her has brought that up. And
Every
and
time.
we keep
Without fail.
Yeah, we still haven't gotten to it, but
Yeah. No, I probably won't drop it either. I tell people, I literally have spoken about it, I think with at least one person every day the past like
yeah.
since I saw it like 3 months ago. Such a great movie. So watch it for sure. It was that day that I saw the movie, and that night I went home and I wrote out this like very long like letter to my mom, and then I texted it to her the following day. And it was crazy. Like I was like on the verge of a panic attack the entire time.
For
Like,
sure.
I literally, there's a video of me like my friends, like I'm like doing like an ice bucket thing, like literally, so like I could like calm down because I was so anxious about it.
Of
'Cause
course,
it
it's
was,
your life.
yeah, no, literally, and like I would have called, but hear me out. Like it was one of those situations where I knew exactly what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it, and it was one of the things I wanted to get that across and not let my emotions get in the way of how I was going to express myself, you know, over the phone. And I wanted to have a conversation after on the phone, like I told her that, and so
Sure.
super loving, super like accepting and supportive, which is like everything I wanted, because like I was like very very close to my mom, and so that was great. But like, you know, I still hadn't come out to my dad, and then they came to visit me. It's like a month and a half ago for my brother's baby shower. It was down in San Diego. So I was like, yeah, like come and I'll drive y'all down. I was anxious for sure. Like,
Yeah.
And I like called my brother.
And your mom hid it from your dad for...
Yeah, for like a month because she wanted
That's a big
me.
ask of her. And
Yeah.
that's a lot of respect that she did that for you.
She did. And I really do respect that because I was like, because my dad, like, he has Parkinson's disease. Like, he's getting a whole bunch of studies done, but like, it's like really, like, the tremors are like really bad. And so my mom was like telling me about that. So like, that was a huge concern too. And she like wanted me to talk to my dad. Like, I wanted to talk to him.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, and it's your conversation to have, truthfully.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's important that parents have individualized relationships with their kids. And
Yeah.
so it's important for you to have done that, I think.
Yeah, and I think like that's another thing too of like obviously like, you have to communicate with your spouse and stuff like that, but also like if I come to my mom from a place of like vulnerability and like, you know, wanting to have that conversation with my dad and also knowing how difficult it is and like how thankfully like I wasn't living at home, but it's one of those situations where I've had friends where they've come out to their mom or you know, sister, and then they like immediately tell the parents and don't respect that, and like next thing you know, they like literally get kicked out, and just because they simply are born a specific way and they choose to like
Because
not
they
even
are who
choose,
they
but
are,
because they
right?
are who they are and they love someone of the same sex. Like it's so crazy to me.
Well, and that's why a lot of teenagers become homeless, even
Yeah,
because it's that serious.
Or suicidal or...
yeah,
Yeah.
It's really bad. Like I really was at a place mentally like I don't even know how I dealt with it for so long, and that's like for a lot I have so many friends who have like come out to their parents or like you know or they you know like their diary was read they, you know by their mom, and then they like found out and then they were like you know told they could never like have anyone over or whatever. Or I had one friend and like he's now in entertainment but he was like kicked out at 15, like literally kicked out like of his like home, and it's like and he literally went through so much, like the trauma was insane.
Well, imagine just even making that choice as a parent, where it's like, "Yep, see ya."
Yeah,
Some
Can you
people's,
imagine?
Some people's religious values, and I'm not saying it's just religion, but most of the time, some people's religious values triumph that.
my problem with that is like I grew up like in the church day and day, like Pentecostal, Baptist, like Catholic, like
Your dad was a minister.
Yeah, my mom.
Oh,
My
your mom
yes,
was
she
a
was. My
minister.
dad like was the supporter from my mom in a sense. Like he was
Gotcha.
still like a minister, but my mom was like she like did exorcisms and like she would like she like in reality she's very like she's a powerful woman, and like she like would have like visions, and she like would prophesy, and like the respect I have for my mom and like her love for people is insane. And so I've seen that, and like even like the way she would befriend gay people around me all the time as a kid, I found so interesting because you could sense an energy of homophobia from certain people, but from her I never sensed that, even though if verbally there were you know moments that things were said or whatever. My issue with all of that is that if you are a true Bible believing Christian, and like I still identify as a Christian, if you are a true Bible believing Christian, your job is to be there for your child and to be there for your spouse, or if you don't have a spouse, to be there for your child and to nourish them. And it is not your responsibility. Ye without sin cast the first down. Like, I'm so sorry, but you are not fixing anything. You are not fixing your child with their issues or whatever.
Right.
It's your responsibility, if you believe it's wrong, to hand it to God. I don't believe it's wrong. And like people who are like, you know, super religious, like, oh, that's like biased or whatever. And I'm like, in reality, Jesus Christ in 33 years of ministry, like never spoke against homosexuality. In 33 years of like his life, he never spoke against it. And he like was always such an amazing Samaritan, and like embraced the mistress, and embraced the cheater, and embraced the murderers, and embraced healed the sick on the Sabbath. You know what I mean? Like he broke all the rules.
Sure.
And it's like that in the sense of all the people that are looked up to in historical figures in different religions as well. Like a lot of them just literally spread love, is what a lot of people don't realize. And to me, it's like so hypocritical that because your child's sexuality, it's you know why? Because you're projecting your insecurity of what, like, how great of a parent you are and like how you maybe raised them wrong, right?
True.
Or how they're a mistake and this and that in a sense. So anyway, sorry I went into a full ramble, but that's just like, it's so frustrating to see that. And it was definitely a fear of mine.
Right.
Like, I knew my parents would love me, but it was definitely a fear. That's why I like didn't want to do it when I lived there. And I didn't move out till I was like full time till I was 19.
Right. And so
End of
then
19.
you were on a drive to San Diego? Is that?
Yeah, so I called my brother on the way to San Diego, and I came out to him, super loving, accepting, and like his fiance, like her sibling is non-binary, and it's just one of those things where like I was like, wow, like my brother is like so chill about it. He's like, what? That's like so cool. Like,
Yeah,
what?
hell
and he's
yeah.
like about to have a baby. Like, it's so sick. And then we get back from San Diego, and it's the last day. We like go to Castaway in Burbank. Like, so good. I don't know if you guys been to Castaway. It's so good. So I take them there. Such a like, you know, fun little dinner with them. And we go back to the apartment, and I'm like about to like sit down. Like I can just feel this like energy, like this tension. And I'm like, oh shit. I like hold a little Apple TV controller. I'm like, pull up Netflix, right? Like Netflix. And my mom's like, no, hijito, like we need to talk. And so we went into this conversation, and you know, there were a lot of waves and emotions. My dad was downstairs like taking a nap, and so we like all the emotions and everything, and it was one of those things like towards the end of the conversation, it felt like she loved me unconditionally, but like her religion was still gonna give her the belief that I was like gonna go to hell for eternity for something. And so I made that statement. I was like, you know, but like I feel like you believe I'm gonna like go to hell for eternity, which like still hurts in the back of my mind. And she said, no, Hito, no, I don't believe that. I believe that you're in the palm of God's hand, and like he loves you no matter what. I just want to make sure you're at peace. Because she then started opening up to me about stuff I didn't know. Like she lived in LA for 10 years, and she was in theater, and she used to work with like the trans community. And like I never knew this, by the way. Like I was like, what? She was like, yeah, all my friends were gay, and they would come to me, and there was like, they would always like be like crying, and it was so scary. And I was like, one, that was a different time. And I was like, it's still like that in a sense that like there's a lot of trauma that people go through because of situations like this, where it then can become projected on relationships. And I'm like, I'm thankful enough that I feel like I've found my peace, and this is the one thing, like not being able to like accept who I am that has gotten in the way of that. So I had the conversation with my dad, super loving, supportive. Like it was like, it's still one of those things like I didn't want to go in too depth into like that whole conversation, because it was just like, as long as we can end it on a note where like, you know, we're all like holding hands and like hugging. We watched the movie end of the night, and like I went on a drive, and then I literally wrote a song in the car. It's called The Same. And it was, I'm so excited because the song just is like from a perspective of like, I felt like there was this burden like my entire life that was lifted, but I was like, what is it? I was like, that's still like, what is it that's there? Like, why do I feel like I'm going to come to this situation again? And I was like, on my wedding day, I was like, the day of like, you know, are you going to approve of my marriage? Are you going to be there? And like, and so I wrote that song, and like I wrote it in like 30 minutes, which was so insane. Like how it just flowed out of me. It was such a release, like to be able to translate those emotions. But yeah, that's like, I haven't even really shared that story with too many people, but it's one of those things where I feel like I'm really like blessed though that it went well, because I love you.
So your dad was approving.
He was very loving, and like he did not approve of the fact that he basically was saying like technically like it's still a sin, and it's something that can be overcome. And that to me was rough. I was prepared for that though.
Sure.
It was more important to have the conversation, like, you know, but he was like holding my hand, and he's also 73 now, and I'm his only son. And so he does have a place in his heart where I know like, and he's become a lot more accepting, I've noticed, in the past few years, than like when he was like in his 60s, like when I was like, you know, a teenager. And it was hard to hear that for sure.
Yeah.
But I made a statement to him that I felt like I was never able to say to myself ever. And to be able to say it to him in that moment was insane. I was like, I'm going to live my life not holding back who I am, made in Christ's image, or in God's image of like who I am as an individual, which is getting in the way of my growth and my spirituality, my individuality, my identity. I'm going to stop restricting myself because it's holding me back from being the best version of myself. And I'm going to continue to live my life loving others and being led by, you know, the Holy Spirit, or like what an energy that feeds other people's souls. And I was like, if I live my entire life sowing love into everyone around me, and then especially the person that I'm going to marry one day, which I have no choice, but like I'm going to choose to love, like it's a sin to love another human being unconditionally. Like I'm going to do that. And if God sends me to hell, then I'm going to hell. And that was like, whew, it was like saying that was like,
huge.
It was huge because it like allowed me to express a place of, cause like I was so brainwashed in a sense, like I literally thought, like obviously I would like cry every night and like I would pray and like fast and ask God to change me, because like, you know, growing up as a teenager, I also didn't have any gay friends. I like didn't know anything.
Yeah.
And I literally was like, I would like consider like maybe if there's like a conversion therapy or something out there until the age of like 18, which is like crazy because like I feel like a lot of my friends, or even 19 really, like I doubted like if it was wrong or right. Like a lot of my friends, like they just like they were able to accept who they were at an earlier age, and like it took me a long time for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm happy now in the sense that like it's helped me so much creatively, and like where I feel I can be vulnerable and freely express myself. And
That's
and,
so
like,
important. That's where the best art's going to come from too. And
Yeah.
that's the stuff that's going to connect with people and influence people in a positive way and make people feel loved and make people feel heard. It's
Yeah.
you being fully you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I don't have this like filter up anymore. Like when I do my videos, like I act how I want to act, whatever
Yeah.
the character is, and you know, because I still do the comedy stuff, right? And but my music, it's very very like very sad, most of it, very like emotional, in regards to it's my diary. It's honestly my diary from the past 3 years of all, like even with my relationships, like, or situationships, and let's just call them situationships, it's never really actually a relationship, like all the situationships and all the like heartbreak or whatever and everything I've gone through. I felt like I had to go through all the motions that a teenager gets to go through in their love life at such an early age, all that
Yeah.
heartbreak at such a late age, in a real world place where I'm a full grown, like mature adult, where I feel like I'm ready for stuff, and like have to like learn to deal with those emotions later in life was so difficult because like I was doing so many other things.
Right. And if you were keeping yourself, for lack of a better word, closeted till you were 19,
Yes.
it's a little
Yeah.
hard to experience those things, especially because you yourself felt like it was sinning.
Yes. No, exactly. Like I wasn't out to like 80% of my friends until I was 21. So last year is when I started coming out. So like they obviously like all knew, but it's so funny. I look back on it and like I look at the videos that we all have together and stuff. I'm like, it's honestly so funny in the sense of like how they just respected to wait
Yeah.
until I came out, which I love. Like nobody like
That's good.
pushed, which made me feel comfortable. And I think that's another thing too, is a lot of people when they're like, oh no, like you have to come out, you should come out, and like you should, but you have to get to a place where you can also be comfortable in your skin and like work on those emotions and those things and have people around you who support that.
Yeah.
Because I needed my time for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's some positive concepts and all of that too. I know you said most of your music is written like a diary and it's oftentimes sad and negative, but you just mentioned a ton of positive, and that's your life too. So
Yeah, exactly. And I want to start writing more about that. Like I started working on the song yesterday, and it's in my dad's handwriting. It's like the only tattoo I have, and it says "Be still."
That's cool.
And he used to say to me when I was like anxious, because I have like really bad anxiety, but like whenever I was anxious or like I would be frustrated because I wasn't like thinking of creative ideas, he'd be like, "Be still and wait on the Lord." And so I like wrote this song about it, and it's like it's a very like, I feel like uplifting song in the sense of, you know, I'm like commanding myself to be still and like embrace that moment. It's like super like euphoric, and like I'm like really excited to like finish that one.
That's really cool.
amazing.
But it's I'm like really. Have you heard his name's Jake, GVKE?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've never met. We've just like been mutuals for like a year and a half, and he's like, you know, he's doing his stuff right now.
Yeah.
But I remember like listening to this is what falling in love feels like at the very beginning, and I was like, ooh, I was like, this is gonna do really well. I was like, he's insanely talented. And the most recent one he did called Golden Hour, which I don't know if you guys have heard it. Have you heard Golden Hour?
I don't think so.
It's so good. It is so good. And it's kind of like the vibe of like Good Days with SZA, like very, I feel like, you know, bringing in as many elements, because I really love strings and like harp, and I love classical music. Like I have a song based off Moonlight Sonata that we like are finishing next week.
That's cool.
Is that like your vibe? Like what's y'all's vibe
I'm just
in
like
regards to what
obsessed
you
with
love?
orchestral scores, and the first thing I'll do when a movie comes out is listen to the whole score, and I usually end up liking the score more than the movie itself.
Yeah.
Generally, when I'm driving in my car, I'm listening to scores. Like
Really?
This man insists on strings in everything, and I think it's great.
Good.
So,
Okay.
Yeah,
Same.
I've like really tried to dial it in. And sometimes when people are like, "Oh, we want to put live strings on this," I'm like, "But listen what I did, and tell me if you can tell it's not live."
And
yeah,
I'm
well,
sure
now
they
with
can.
modern libraries, it's really hard.
I'm very particular when it comes to orchestral elements. Very particular.
What would you say is like your favorite score? I think that's like probably a tough
We're gonna be
That's
here for
tough.
a while.
Well,
Yeah.
I just think it changes by the day, just because I'm like inspired by all the new scores
and
that
you hear
come
new
out.
shit every time you listen to the same score. It's like new elements come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, same with a pop song. Like, truthfully, you can listen and interpret it 20 different ways, but a score, it's just even more.
there's such emotional depth to scores that almost evokes the same emotion if you were to listen to like a ballad, right?
Yeah.
But you get the lyrics and the melody coming through. But when you
Yeah.
take the human voice out of it, all of that still can come through. You just got to figure out how to do the right parts to make it feel that same way. And so, I don't know. By far, it's going to be Interstellar because it's my favorite movie. I'm obsessed with space. I'm a weird space guy. Physics, everything. I'm
Really?
like super, super nerdy when it comes to that.
Really?
Well, like, you know, the telescope, everything.
I was going to say the Hubble telescope.
That's the latest image. This
Yeah,
the
he
James Webb.
replaced our background with that.
So
Honestly, it looks good. It looks good. Yeah.
So
I'm kind
it's
of
my
a nerd
phone's
too when it comes to
background.
stuff like that. I'm not
it's
gonna
the background on my phone. Like
really.
I have a little bit of a polarizing question then. Being the religious person that you are and coming from a religious background, what do you think about all the science in space that's been kind of coming out?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Like, I
believe they can coexist. I do believe
yes,
that, but it's
I do too. So my thing is like I was like a science like I do love science, and I love understanding genetics. Like genetics are huge
Yeah.
for me, and like I'm not like an expert. Like when I say later, I'm gonna be like, okay, no, but like I used to be a part of as a kid this creation science organization in Indianapolis, and they worked with like Ken Ham, and like we used to go to the Creation Museum and like part of like Noah's Ark and all that. So you could definitely say I was like, I'm a type 1 diabetic, by the way. And it says, am I dying? No, I'm good. Okay. That's my like not
Is
so
it
bad
connected
emergency.
to you?
Yes, it is. I've got like little like I've got.
Do you need a snack?
Dexcom.
We've got snacks.
No, I'm good. It's a little high, but she's fine. She's fine. We'll deal with it. Honestly, wait. Actually, I'll put a little bit of insulin. We'll pull out my little BlackBerry here, my little PDM thingy.
And does it connect to the thing and tell it to do its thing?
Yeah, it's like crazy because I used to have to use an insulin pen before
Yeah.
I had insurance, and I used to have to go to Mexico to get my insulin because like.
It's asininely expensive here.
Yeah, no, it's insane. Like without insurance to like do like have an Omnipod Dexcom between like your endocrinologist, like to like be a healthy diabetic in a sense, and to actually live your life like somewhat normally, and like still have to deal with all the complications and all the bullshit. Like without insurance, it would probably cost you like $6,000 or $7,000 a month, and like honestly minimum. And like that's what we were having to do. So we would have to go to Mexico for my endocrinologist. I'd
Right.
like have to get my insulin pens there, and I couldn't like afford to have this stuff. And so now
So do you inject yourself with the pen, or how would it work?
not any. Yeah, normally you inject yourself with the pen, but with this, so like right now my Dexcom, which is a 24-hour glucose monitor, it like tells me what my sugar is at 24/7, and then I like change it out every 10 days, like a little patch, and like I'll put it on like my stomach or whatever. And like right now my sugar's at 223, which is kind of high, but it's not like too bad.
So the insulin will then reduce it?
Will then reduce it. And so then here I plug in what my sugar's at. And, oh, you know what it is I had that and I didn't count for it, and that has 10 grams. So I'll put like 7 because there's probably 7 grams left in there, and then it'll calculate what already increased.
Oh, nice.
And then do like 5.25 units. And so all I have to just know is like what I'm putting in my body. Like,
right.
And which after 4 years, because I was diagnosed at 17. Like I didn't get it. Like it's normally the one you're like, because it's type 1. Like
yeah,
the one
it's
you're
normally
like,
when you're like a kid.
Yeah, no, I got it at 17. Like I lived a totally normal life until then.
So now that's doing that. How quick will it respond on the app?
Probably like 30 minutes. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so it's like this.
And what does being high feel like? With it high, do you notice a difference in your body?
I don't until it's in the 300s. I start getting more lethargic, or like my thoughts are kind of scattered, or I like stutter more, or can't,
What about if it's too low?
Too low, I get like shaky, very scattered, lose my balance.
Yeah.
I like literally had a near-death experience this year in February in New York. Like I collapsed on the train, and that's the scariest experience I've ever had.
Were you by yourself?
No, I was with 3 other friends, but we didn't know where we were in like the middle of this like subway in New York, and it was like 3 a.m. and like my friends didn't know what to do, and I didn't have, because like I'm so unprepared and like always lose my shit, but I am supposed to have like this like emergency like Baqsimi, like brings your sugar. It's like an EpiPen for diabetics, and like I didn't bring it with me because I was like, whatever, like I'll be fine. Yeah. And I like, it just so happens to be that I'm like collapsing on the train in the middle of nowhere, and it's so funny because I'm like literally like my eyes are closed, and I'm like sugar, and I'm like juice, and like they like. My friend Luana Gabe, bless you met Gabe.
Yeah.
Bless their hearts. But they like run up and get me this like funnel cake. And I'm like, bro, I literally like can't even talk or like open my eyes. How am I gonna eat this?
Oh, no.
It was the best they could do. But thankfully, like while Sam stayed with me, there was this like lady that was walking by.
Did you eat the funnel cake or no?
I could, like, you can't.
You
I couldn't.
Gotcha.
But I could. But I was like getting better because there was this lady with the Trader Joe's bag, and she had like creamer, and so I had to chug this creamer. And it was so nasty, and it had a lot of sugar in it, thank God. But even then, I chugged like half a bottle of creamer, which probably would have been like over like 300 something grams of carbs. And even an hour later, the ambulance didn't get there till like honestly 45 minutes, like an hour to find us and everything. Hour later, my sugar was still at 50. So my sugar was at like low.
Whoa.
So how does that happen? You just didn't eat all day, or
I didn't eat all day, and then I injected insulin. I didn't have a pod on because I ran out of pods, and so I was basing off a pen. And what happened is it was honestly my fault. I injected insulin but didn't eat anything because I was expecting to eat something.
Right.
And also my sugar was high. So anyway, it was like a whole.
So the insulin. Sorry for being
no, go ahead.
Ignorant on the subject. Does it eat the sugar? Insulin?
Yes,
It like breaks down the sugar.
It carries the sugar into the cell.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So and like the beta cells like produce the insulin, which comes from your pancreas. My pancreas like tapped out. Apparently, she was just like, "I'm done. I'm gonna tap out of this." And so I didn't have beta cells, and it's also technically an autoimmune disease. So like it starts attacking your beta cells, so then your pancreas. It's just like a whole thing.
So when you're low, you need sugar. When you're high, you need insulin.
Exactly.
So literally, it can happen that quick. Like if you didn't have the creamer, you couldn't eat the cake.
No. Honestly, I'm really surprised. Like if that lady did not have the creamer in her bag, like I wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Really?
Like, yeah, I was really close. My heart rate was starting to go like really high. I remember feeling like my face was blank. I like felt cold, and I literally I was trying to stay awake because I was about to pass out.
Did you feel it coming on the train before you passed out, or was it? Does it happen really quick?
So I did, because we were at this like experience in New York, like where like it's like all glass and mirrors, and it was what sucked too is it was my friend Luan. Like I flew all the way to New York for her birthday. Like we all went together, and it was her birthday, and it was also her birthday falls on Valentine's. So like and so we're having I played like his song for them in the AirPods. Like it was just such a good night. I was with my friend Sam, and towards the end of the experience, my sugar was low and my Dexcom was telling me. So I went in line to get orange juice, and I finished the orange juice, which normally like
pumps you right
me right back up. I guess it wasn't enough, and my phone died. And so 10 minutes later on the subway, and I feel a little kind of just like lightheaded, but I'm like, whatever. And then I just like out of nowhere, my head starts hurting. I collapse and like
Wow.
I just like, and they had to like carry me, and it was a very long night. I ended up in the ER, and they like wouldn't tell them how I was or what was going on, and
Because
so
they're not family.
exactly, and so they
Oh,
didn't know.
shit.
And I was out, like I fell asleep as soon as I got into the
Yeah.
ambulance. I just remember them like, talking about diabetics, and I was like listening, and one nurse didn't know anything about diabetes, and it's funny listening to the other one like talking. It's so funny. They were also just talking about the most random stuff, and I just remember like listening and kind of just laughing internally. I was like, this is so funny. But they helped save my life, so thanks to them.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And the lady with the creamer out there, if you like, if anyone were to ever like thank you for your Trader Joe's creamer.
Because they could have just turned around and walked up the stairs and left you.
No, she actually said, "Oh no, I don't." And then she came back because I told Sam, like, I was like, I need you to ask her to like shout, and I was like, sugar, like I was like trying to get it out.
Yeah.
But there was only so much I could do, and then nobody had anything, and then she like didn't. But then she came back. She was like, I found this creamer at the bottom of my bag. Like, this is a creamer I bought at Trader Joe's today at the bottom of my bag. And he was like, thank you so much. I like checked the label, and thank God it wasn't like a sugar-free creamer or
Right?
something. Can you imagine? Like, that would have, no, it was so bad. And so thankfully it had sugar, and so I chugged it, and everything was good.
Just for the longest time, I don't know what it's due to, but I've never been a big, it happens for a reason kind of guy. But I feel like I'm slowly starting to be converted, because the stories I keep hearing are just like these chance moments where there's one person standing there with a bag and just happens to have the right thing in that moment. Whereas in New York, because Austin's from New York, I lived in New York for 2 years before we moved to LA. And I know what it's like in the subway. You get off at stations. There's not shit around. Like you'd have to
Nobody
sprint.
wants to fucking talk to you either.
No, we were also in the worst spot possible in the middle of a tunnel, a long tunnel with no signage. No signage.
So it's like to get out, it's like a long way.
You have to walk all the way to the end, then up all the stairs.
And then find a corner store.
And then it connects to other parts of the subway where the signs are. So we're like in the literally like the worst spot.
Right.
Even the ER girl was like, she was like, it was really hard to find you. Like, how did you end up here? Like,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I do believe things happen for a reason. And it's like, I've just like had so many experiences, and like everybody's had their own experience. So, I definitely like kind of like tweak a little bit when I'm like, when people like give a reason for everything. It's like, oh my God, there is a parking spot for me. It fits the car perfect. I'm like, there's literally 10 other parking spots on the street. Like, you're fine, babes. And so it's moments like that I'm definitely like, wow, like for sure. But, or also like with the signs thing, it's like, wait, you're a Capricorn, to like, Capricorn, like everything. But they literally, that's their sign. And like, to their own, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody has their own like way, and like I respect that, and like I'll be like, yeah, okay. But I've had like some really crazy experiences, like spiritual experiences. Like it just makes, even the way my mom and dad met was so like supernatural. It was like, it's like crazy stuff, and everybody has their own stories and testimonies.
Have you ever written about that? Because that's also cool too, to write like about a familial experience. Without that happening, you wouldn't be here. So
yeah, no, I haven't at all written about that.
what was that experience, if you're open to sharing?
Like my spiritual experience, or
No,
the
them
family?
meeting. I'm just curious.
So
you say it's like crazy. I was like, now I gotta know.
Yeah, it honestly is crazy. Okay, so I'll try to summarize it. It's kind of a long story. So my mom was in ministry, right, doing her thing, and she had this friend, like such a great friend of hers, called Danny. And Danny was like known as like a playboy, but he had just joined the church, and like, he would like flirt with my mom, but my mom wouldn't do anything, and they were just best friends. And Danny one day, like, and he really liked my mom, and my mom had a dream, and she said that she, like in the vision, she like was warned to stay away from Danny. And Danny, that same night, apparently he had never ever heard like God's voice before, and he said, "Stay away from my anointed one." And he woke up in chills and like was sweating, and so he like stopped flirting with my mom. And then a couple weeks later, my mom gets this like dream or whatever, and like in the dream, or like she said she like heard the Holy Spirit of God say, ask Danny about a friend, Patrick. He needs healing. And I've met Danny. He's like a few times. Like he's such a great guy. Like super chill. Like super successful. Found ministry like late in life, whatever. And he was like, had just met my dad, Patrick, and my mom had no idea about this person, Patrick. Like nothing at all. And so my mom calls up Danny and goes, "Hey, do you have a friend named Patrick? Like God spoke to me and said like he needs healing." And he was like, "Yeah, actually I have this one friend. He's like going through a lot." My dad was going through a lot of depression at the time. Like it was a lot. Like he was like falling out with like his family situation. It's a lot of complicated stuff. And so my mom sang for him, and he like his testimony of it is that he like they weren't attracted to each other at the beginning, but he went through this huge emotional release from it, and like it ministered to him. And so they became friends and like started hanging out or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like God spoke to my mom again and like told her that she's like Patrick's for her. And like she at first, what she always tells me is like she like didn't want that low key, like she like genuinely didn't. And so, but then it's like weird how over like a month, like things started to change, and then they like went on a date and they got married, and they've been married for 23 years, and they got married after 3 months.
Wow.
And they had me. And my mom had a vision. Oh, she always used to tell this to me. But right before actually she even found out that she was pregnant, I think. Yeah, before she had found out she was pregnant, or I think they had even like, gotten married and like, done the duty or whatever. She had apparently heard that like you're gonna have a son named Joshua. She said that she saw me and it was a spitting image in like a bathtub. His name's Joshua. Or you're going to have a son, and to name him Joshua for like he is to be a leader or something. And so then she found out she was pregnant, and she said like I was a spitting image. But the way they met was just so crazy in the sense of like how it also just like led to the fact they weren't attracted at first, but then they like fell in love. And it's also interesting too, because my mom took care of my grandparents almost my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandma did not approve of my mom because she thought it was for the papers. My mom to this day is not a citizen still. Like she doesn't even like, she's like, I like having my citizenship as a Mexican.
Yeah.
And, like I have my permanent residency and my green card.
Mm-hmm.
And so she also like requested that to get a DNA test. Rest in peace. I like love her, but she was also schizophrenic, had like dementia and stuff.
Yeah.
But she requested to get a DNA test to prove that I was the son and everything. And so it was definitely a lot that my mom had to go through with his family, but they're a great example. They've like, like general arguments and stuff growing up, but I feel like they have given me a good example of at least communication. Like my mom's like Latina and fiery, and so she like snaps at him, and it's just normal, right? It's a relationship, and it's definitely very dramatic. Like I lived around a very dramatic family and like dramatic mom and stuff, but it definitely is one of those stories where I feel like I have chased love for so long and have always been heartbroken from it. And like I actually just recently started thinking about it, and I was like, what's meant for me is going to come to me. And
I also
like,
love that as a song idea, not to cut you off.
Yeah,
but that's a whole
low
other...
key. Like I'm ready to like wait for the perfect person who fills all my needs, but also is like that
They need to add to your life.
The person adds something like, but like there's always that like the person you're meant to be with, or the perfect one. And I feel like I'm ready to like go through all the motions to say also no to situations that I know my gut's telling me no about and that are unhealthy to get to the one.
Yeah, it's just having a good shit radar.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you go through all these people and it's like, red flags or certain thing pops up, your shit radar goes off. You're like, nope, I'm good.
Yeah, like if somebody doesn't like my dog June, they're gone.
If they don't like my cat Milo, have you guys seen my cat? This is my baby. Hold on. He is 22 pounds. He's a purebred Maine Coon.
Oh my God.
And he is my pride and joy. So anyone who isn't a cat person,
is that the only pet you've had?
Date. No, I grew up with a lot of cats. Like we like fostered cats, and like they like would always end up pregnant and have like 20 babies, and so we always had cats. And I had like a dog. I had a pet squirrel once. not like a pet. Like my dad like rescued it because they were gonna get exterminated from this roofing job he was gonna do or whatever.
Yeah.
And like I named him Sammy, and we tried to set him free after he got better, but like he literally would like. Stayed with us, and we always would wear shirts with pockets, and he would sit in the pocket.
No
and I
way.
have photos of me when I'm like 12, like hanging out with my squirrel Sammy. We would go to weddings with him, and we would go to like events. We would go to church, and like Sammy was always with us.
Yeah.
And then he got like sick and died. Unfortunately, it was like I was so sad. Honestly, I don't think I've ever like cried so much in my entire life. I really love that squirrel. But like we even had a hawk at one point that my dad rescued off the side of the street. He had 3 raccoons that like just showed up on the porch and like would hang out. We had like deer. Very like weird. I had a pet fly at one point, like with my roommates. I'm like weird with
Hold
animals.
up, go into that.
Bro, I have like all these videos. My friend Alex Kawaguchi posted this video called 50 Shades of Fly, and it was so funny because like it was literally like having like a paid actor, because we were living in this house in Arizona. There was this fly that like was always on the counter, and it like fell over, and I guess it's like wings like were like falling off or whatever, and it would spin. And so we're like, oh, like whatever, and we'd help the fly, but he would just chill there. I don't know, because like my normal instinct is like kill the fly, right? Like just like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
But for some reason, there was something about the fly that we were like, wait, no, this is like, we need to like nourish it. And so we would see it was there on the counter, it wouldn't fly away every single day. And sometimes we'd like find it on the floor somewhere. We'd wake up, be like, where is he? Like, and I'd be like, Lauren, did you check over there? And he'd like be on the counter, like, come on, buddy. And he would like hop onto our finger, and we would put him on the table, like the counter.
Way.
For 2, and they don't have like a long life expectancy.
No.
This thing lived for, I like have proof like from day to day, over 2 weeks. And it was so weird because like we started to really love the fly, and like we built like it's so bad. Our 2 of our roommates like hated it, like, because we like built like a little like herbararium or whatever, and we had like grapes in there, and like I put like little chocolate chunks, and like I like Googled what flies can eat, and I was like, they can like they're like dog shit, so it's like anything. I'm like, oh, like what's their dietary restrictions? And he just like chilled there, and then one day like he died, and like we found him. And turns out like we're like, what are all these like little larvae? And then I researched the difference between a male and a female like fly, and it was a female fly, and she was pregnant. And so we're like, wait, like these are its babies. And you think like we would just stop there, but like no. We were like, honestly, it's so disgusting talking about it, but we like collected the larvae and put them in a special place where they could like feed off of food and like grow. I genuinely don't know. Now I'm like talking about it, like this is so gross.
So is there like a swarm of flies?
Well,
going
here's
through your
what
place?
happened. We ended up like exterminating the situation, because as I was watching that video on how to distinguish a male from a female fly, it was like a YouTube video.
Yeah.
The video was like 5 minutes long. We played it, and it kept going about the larva, whatever. And then it like was going on about flies, this and that. And it's like, and flies through their things with their little hands. And we always used to be like, oh, he's washing his hands. And like, I have like, sorry, I'm like after reflex. I have like little videos of like him and like in slow motion doing his thing with his hands, and he would do it on our finger and stuff like that. That's what flies do. Yeah. And the videos like flies and they're blah 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 and spreading millions of disease germs. Bro, I kid you not. And I'm such a hypochondriac, and I'm like so big on germs. I started freaking out. I'm literally like washing my hands. I'm like taking my vitamin C supplements. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to do like a deworming cleanse. Like I'm so stressed.
Yeah.
And so at that point I was like, yeah, let's like exterminate the situation and get rid of the larva while we can.
Yes.
But
it's probably a good
choice.
choice.
That was our pet fly. My car is like named after our pet fly. And
which
so,
is
I named it, and I was like, and I'm bilingual, I'm half Mexican, but I named him Carlos, and I was like, Carlos, my fly, and it was like it was my baby too.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what I did, and then so
something
like, I named my
about this fly
honor.
just connected with you.
It was really weird. No, in this video, I'll have to send it to you guys, is like the funniest thing. This 50 Shades of Fly video, it's like so funny.
Amazing.
But
there's not really much to write about the fly, but
No,
maybe there is.
that-
Well, it's
I
about
love
connection,
that.
but that
Well,
was great.
sure.
Well, because the listeners know about Carl. Carl was our homie pet mouse. He was super chill.
You had a pet, like, did you like buy him from Petco? Or?
No.
He just came in through like the air vent or some shit. Like,
This was in New York.
through the walls in New York.
Most
And
buildings.
like, what did you just like? Let him
My
come
roommate,
in?
like, our our other roommate that lives with us now is just him and I in the apartment.
Yeah.
He would leave cheese out in the kitchen and shit because we knew he's coming. He'd just dip in there, grab the cheese, and dip back out. But
I'm so sorry. That's so gross.
But,
I had a fly, so like I
No.
can't say anything. But like,
the same like trauma with the the dead fly on
Yeah.
the floor wherever you found him.
Once we
but
slid
like you
the
got
couch
very
back.
close though. Like, was it actually like one of those things where like he would like come off and like pick up his food and like dip?
He didn't like us, but he was around.
He appreciated
hung out.
what you were doing for him.
Oh, you'd hear him at night, like in the wall and
Yeah,
shit.
Yeah,
they
he
don't
was
come
like-
out during the day.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
he
it
was
would-
like, I'll respect your space and like I won't eat like
But we
through
had
all
en-
your
we
walls
had enough
as
of
long as you
him.
feed me.
Yeah, we
We
were
had enough
missing.
of him when we pulled the couch out and saw all the rat poop. We were like, nope.
Ooh.
Yeah, but we were missing like our dogs from back home, so it was just like another presence in the house.
Yeah.
So
That's so
the same
Disney,
trauma though
too.
was plugging the hole that he came in through, so we had to plug the hole.
Plug the hole.
Yeah, but
but
then
he-
he just goes and finds a different
He
apartment.
just
and gets cheese from.
it's
Yeah.
just to our space, you know.
Smart. So you didn't like exterminate him or anything,
No.
right? Okay.
We just said you're not welcome here anymore.
Okay. That's like a nice
Not
way
like
of
the
putting
Roach
it.
motels in New York.
I like to think that Carl is still thriving.
Honestly,
Still
he might be-
thriving.
I think I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure like rats or mice, especially New York ones, probably have a long. I think they have a long life expectancy. It's like
Well, see, it wasn't
Probably
like
6
the
years or something.
no,
he
it's
wasn't like the rat you see in the subway. It was like
It's a little
It's
mouse.
like a
Little
little,
tiny
mouse.
mouse,
I'm
yeah.
gonna really quick. I'm just so curious. What's the life expectancy of a mouse? It is 4 to 5 years. So yeah. So like 6 years.
So I just want to also say, after hearing everything you've talked about, you're a very strong human being, right? Like you're very you've gone through a lot, and I think it's built a strong foundation. But I think it's also really cool that you're open to being vulnerable. So I think there's like something about the strength and vulnerability that we could write about too.
yeah. I mean, what are you feeling? What's your vibe today?
Okay, so it's one of those things where I'm not gonna lie, like I've been like I was like even really stressed. I had like 2 sessions yesterday and like it was one of those things where I like to really go in with like a creative and like a title or something or just start from scratch and see what we're feeling in the moment.
Yeah.
And it's, thankfully it's always been a thing where the session like something comes out and it works. And I was like definitely thinking today, I was like, what do I want to write about? And I think like I had a very great conversation last night though about I was able to pinpoint a situation I've been going through emotionally and what I was talking about like the whole being used situation. And I also have this part of me that wants to, because like a lot of my songs are like about that mental health aspect and like my experiences in relationships and what that's like, and even like this one, like the same with in regards to family. I would love to like write a song or like work on a song that's a little bit more uplifting in a sense. If I'm being honest, like. But the emotions that are like most present right now are I feel like I'm coming out of this. It's almost like a new chapter, and in the sense like where it's almost scary, like in everything. And it could be pinpointed to specific things, but I'm like, wow, I'm healing and like I'm going through all these things, but like I have to let go of like everything else that I've ever known in a sense that I've like where I've built that comfort and to get to where I am now.
Yeah.
And so that's been interesting of like also I've noticed I've been having a lot of fears lately, which isn't like me. Like I'm a very like optimistic, like I'm not scared of like dying, but like recently I've like been like just more fearful of like even just health stuff or like, what could happen in the future with, certain relationships. And I feel like there is, and it sucks because I'm like, I don't want to be fearful.
Right.
And I think fear is something that can like really scare you, but it's like, it actually like genuinely is it's a burden in a sense. And I think the fear recently that popped up it's so funny. I was in the car. I was driving my friend to the bar at like, this like 2 nights ago, like 3 a.m. Or not 3 a.m. It was like 11. Felt like 3 a.m. But I was like, I'll take you. Like, I don't want you to like Uber and like be safe. She was with her best friend. And I like played this song and the song title wasn't there, but the like maps was up and it was like Accident Ahead. And then the friend was like, is it called Accident Ahead? And I was like,
That's funny.
no. And I was like, but then I thought about it. I was like, Accident Ahead. I think like what that could mean is more of like, at least when I think about that, and like it might not be a great title, but also it kind of brings in that like closure on the story of like this fear that's building up or all these different things, and like being afraid of that action ahead of running into those things again, like almost like revisiting your ghosts or like revisiting your mistakes or revisiting the same. I wrote this, I almost had this concept too of like revisiting the same person, like whether it's that friendship I was talking about, like I don't even name names, but like that friendship or that significant other
Right.
in another person. And it's like, it's basically like I'm almost scared of like those people presenting themselves in the people that I'm now surrounding myself with. Cause I'm like, yeah, I've like learned to like gauge and have a better discernment for people.
Totally.
But I'm still only 22.
Mm-hmm.
And like people are still going to also want to use me. And like, it's just one of those things, if you never know what can come up in someone. And
some people are really good at putting on a fake face.
exactly. Yeah. They're great at putting on a facade. And it's something that's something that has definitely been weighing on me. And so I'm like, there could be something there to write about.
Yeah.
The friendship, like maybe even writing about that in very like much detail and like even like kind of getting into that. But I was in the car like driving home and I was like, it must like, you like basically like make me like hate myself in a sense, and you have made me guilt trip myself in the sense of like how you've used me and I feel guilty for that. And then also like, but you are so, I see your true colors, but like you're constantly in this circle and in this world that I've like presented to you for you, and you're still living through that. And it's one of those things of like, it's hard to even like express in the sense of it's more of like, you're so perfect and you put on this facade, like I know who you are. So
Yeah.
I know who you are and you know why I've done this. And like, yeah, you make me hate myself, but it must like suck to be you kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And it must suck to be you because like you're projecting your insecurities and everything, not just on me, but the people around you and using them too. And it must suck that you have to like find a way to continue to exist without, and it's not even just me. It's like, doing that to other people.
Yeah.
And so that was something I kind of like, I had such an epiphany last night, and I was like, wow, this like, I feel like I had this like, I'm like, this epiphany is like what I've been like looking for to pinpoint. And I'm like,
Well, that's something we should write about then.
yeah,
Just another angle on that. It could be like, instead of like, it must suck to be you, it's more like I'm sorry for you.
yeah, like I'm
'Cause
sorry.
you can come from a place of, I wish you weren't like the way you are. I'm sorry for you. And then I also thought
Yeah.
like,
because I also, not to like, that's coming, all those emotions I'm saying is from a very like, when I was sitting in the moment, like having to accept and realize, but I also still love like to do with like this heart. So it is one of those things of like, I do feel sorry, and I feel like I've tried so long to like help and like heal that person,
some
and there's only
point
so much you can
can't
do.
that.
Yeah.
People have to want to change themselves. Ultimately, you can help provide all the tools, but if they're not going to seek the help to do it or seek the self-reflection, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And
I think there's definitely something there to write about for sure.
I agree, and I think like it's definitely, even one huge emotion I started feeling is like bitterness of like, I've never like really felt bitter, and I was like, wow, I have like this like really bitter, not even just taste, but like this bitter feeling about this person. I don't know why, because I'm not a bitter person, and I'm not like really a jealous person. And then I was like, wait, like I had a very long conversation last night, like I was saying, and it kind of like led to, I was like, okay, this is justifiable. And I think it's because I wasn't pinpointing the whole story of it.
Yeah.
And then once I was able to accept that, I was like, oh, okay. Like, I'm not good. Because it was more of like I was judging myself for it. Like, why am I feeling this way? Like, why am I doing this? Like, and this person like had like done some really like low key, like really like fucked up shit like that they should have never done to me.
Yeah.
And so that's not cool at all. And like, I literally completely forgave them and like forgot it happened. And then when I started talking about all that stuff last night, I was like, okay, realistically, yes, you can forgive, but you also like,
You don't have to forget. You can forgive, but you don't have to forget.
Exactly. You don't have to forget, and you have to remember that stuff to protect yourself as well in the future.
Right.
And like I was saying, like you just like can't, like you just won't sit at my table. And I think that
I actually loved like seat at my table or something like that. It's a great
really
concept.
love that.
It's really cool.
And I have been like talking about that for because that's another thing I'm very passionate about too, is people will come to me and they're like really heartbroken. They've gone through a lot. They've like really been screwed over by someone. And I'm like, you can't hold on to that. I was like, you can still be civil. You don't have to block them on the internet.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't have to block you and like do all these things. And, like I'm going to see you everywhere. I'm going to see your face. And you're going to see their face in so many different places, and they're going to come up in your life. But what's most important is your peace. And to create that peace, and like I understand, different people have like different ways of like dealing with stuff.
Right.
To each their own. But my thing is like you can still be civil and still, as long as it's a mutually respectful situation, you don't have to, like address a situation that could like be really bad or something. Just know like where you're home and where you're comfort and the people that are there for you, and like who's going to be at that dinner table like at 5, and like who you're going to welcome into your home, into your space. Because I also wrote this song with my friend Mira Housey. Like I was telling you about her, she's literally so talented, and it was about this like situationship I had, and it's called Lock the Door, and it's about like letting go of a certain situation and like letting them take what's theirs. And I wrote that about a specific person I was in a situationship with. That honestly is like 90% of my music is about this person.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, it's definitely targeted towards like this one person. But like in regards to friendships and stuff, there's this other person. And honestly, it's not even just one, it's multiple people. But I think it's just presenting itself in a way where I'm like, it's hitting me and I'm like, oh, wow, like how was I like literally so blind for so long? And like I also like realized I was creating a different version of myself and everything that was against my beliefs and my morals and against who I was an individual and what I wanted to do with my creativity and like how I wanted to look and like how I wanted people to perceive me, or who I wanted to like spend my time with, or what party I wanted to go to. All of that was and it's not their fault in a sense. Like, yes, there was some manipulation, but like it was one of those things. Like I just wasn't happy. I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, wow, I'm so much happier just like not doing that.
All because they don't have a seat at your table.
Exactly.
So let's go write it.
Let's do it.
I'm down.
Okay, I'm excited. I'm down.
All right.
Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
Okay.
thank you for being on. Let's go create some music.
Yeah, let's do it. No, I'm excited, and I'm so glad we had this conversation too. Like I feel like this like really just like to get to know each other.
Absolutely.
It does really
But
help. It
really
honestly
helps pull. And like you're saying, like I also like don't have an issue like if I have to like being in vulnerability is something I've never had an issue with, because my dad was also like a very vulnerable person. Like he told me like he would cry all the time. And I was like, why are you crying? Like I would like get pissed as a teenager. I'd be like, why are you dad? Like, why are you crying? Like I was like, why are you just sitting there on your knees like crying? Like what are you crying about? He's like, and he would like cry, but he would always be like, it's good to cry. He's like, which also is kind of a good song too.
Good to cry.
Good to cry.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I kind of fuck with that too.
Like
Yeah.
that.
But I like both. We should write both of them down. But good to cry is because he was like talking about how like you need to release those emotions and to allow space for healing. It's vulnerability that allows you, and it's also hard to be vulnerable when you're not confident in yourself. And finding that confidence in yourself takes a lot of time and a lot of work.
Absolutely.
And like I'm
Definitely.
still working on it every day.
I think we work
all
on
are.
that for our whole lives.
That's literally what life is like figuring that out.
Right.
Acting class helped me though. I will say if like acting class really helped me find a way to like, find that inner Josh and that like vulnerable side of me and that like wants to be weird. Because I'm also like so weird. Like I'll like just like do the most random. I'm also like have super bad ADHD. And so like, I'll like let out noises to do super stuff, or I'll just be singing all the time. And like I'll say random stuff and like just be me. And I created like these like walls around who I was to be cool and make friends. And like I realized that my best friends are the people who love me for those things. And I'm
That's
like,
right, 'cause
wait,
that's
like
the authentic Josh.
exactly. I'm like, oh, I don't need this person's approval to be a friend with them. I also don't need to like think about what I'm gonna be in and their point of view, like how I'm gonna look to them, and even just in relationships.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but yeah, no, let's definitely write about it. It's good to cry, and then
Seat at the table.
seat at the table.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Let's do it. Okay, I'm excited.
Good stuff.
So everyone can find you and your
Yes,
stuff. Plug
yeah.
the socials and whatever else you want to get out there.
Yeah. So Josh Sadowski on everything. So like TikTok, Snapchat, like YouTube, soon to be Spotify. Because I don't have anything out yet. I've been like really focusing on honing in to make it. I'm such a perfectionist too.
Yeah.
So I just want to be happy with it, where I'm excited to like perform it and excited to like share it with people.
Hell yeah.
And I'm getting there, and I'm getting really excited. But I'm starting to post more on everything. So Josh Sadowski on all socials. So
Amazing.
Cool.
Right.
All right, let's do it.